getting ready to vote on what? Documents related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Tomorrow, the House of Representatives is expected to vote on a legislative maneuver, a discharge petition, that would force the Justice Department to release all of its Epstein files. And those files, by the way, go back almost 20 years to July 2006 when the feds first began investigating him. You know, 180, though, President Trump has changed his mind, and now he's also backing the release. Today at the White House, the president said this.
We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats. You look at this Reid Hoffman, you look at Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, they went to his island all the time, and many others, they're all Democrats. I believe that many of the people some of the people that we mentioned are being looked at very seriously for their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, but they were with him all the time. I wasn't at all. I'm for I don't. They can do whatever they want. We'll give them everything. Sure, I would. Let the Senate look at it. Let anybody look at it.
And here's a stunner. Might President Trump soon hold talks with Venezuela's tyrant, Nicolas Maduro? That's a switch from what's been going on in recent days when Venezuela and the United States have both been mobilizing troops. What might Trump say to the dictator? Plus $5 billion. Could the BBC be forced to pay that amount of money, that whopping amount of money, to President Trump for doctoring his speech? And remember her? She's Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. She was disqualified from the Georgia criminal case she brought against Trump and 18 others, meaning that the case was stalled, but now there's been a new turn. And Dr. Oz, he joins us this hour. I have some questions for him about health care in America for you and what can be done to make things even more affordable for you. But first, the Epstein files and the expected vote tomorrow on Capitol Hill. Matt Schlapp and Michael LaRosa join me. Matt's the chairman of CPAC, and Michael is a former special assistant to President Biden and former press secretary of the First Lady. Matt, why is the president, he's the member of the Republican Party, your party, why is the president, why did he make a 180? Why didn't he do this before?
You know, he campaigned, and certainly I got the impression that we were going to let all this out. And then he was elected president, and then he decided to pull back. He's commented publicly, or at least it's been reported, that he didn't want people to be hurt who were mentioned in the report but weren't, you know, perpetrators of any crimes.
Was that persuasive to you, hearing that?
Well, I had always been, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to get myself in trouble, but I had always been told that Epstein was, they say, one of us. He was somehow wrapped up in the government through the intelligence community. So I was always told that. I didn't know if that was right. I didn't know if that was wrong.
He gets a pass?
Well, he didn't really get a pass. He got a pass the first time. Then they came back around, and then they prosecuted him again. They put him in prison, and whether you believe he committed suicide or someone killed him, obviously he was, you know, he was being held to account. The crazy part of all this is that if somewhere in this, if there was any evidence that Donald Trump did something wrong, there is a 0% chance that wouldn't already be public.
So, okay, that's my question for you, Michael. You're the Democrat at the table. Tell me, why did the Democrats do this the last 4 years?
I've been asking that question for months. I don't understand the end game here. We're living in this very big glass house. We've already saw the first Democrat pay the price, right? That congresswoman from the USVI who was texting with him a couple of months before.
Which is odd, don't you think?
Of course, I think it's odd. But like this whole thing, did you ever see Veep? That show Veep? In the second season, there's a senator who says, when you take the pin out of the grenade, you're supposed to throw the grenade away, not shove it up your own.
I mean, Democrats are opposed to the grenade.
No, but like the MAGA Republicans, they pulled the pin out, right? Now they're watching the explosion, but Democrats are not immune from the blast radius here. I mean, from what I've seen, from all the documents that have been unsealed, it's all Democrats who hung out with this guy or who had associations with him or he gave money to. He gave money to Schumer and the DS and the DNC for 10 years. I mean, Bill Richardson, John Kerry, I mean, George Mitchell. These are all Democrats. So I don't understand what the end game here for my party is.
Well, the other thing, too, is I don't think people realize that an investigation go back to 2006, the documents of federal, it'll include a tractor trailer full of documents. That's and there will be hard drives. This will be an another whole exercise. I don't
But
think.
we also don't know what the DOJ is going to black out, right? They're in charge of disseminating. They have to disseminate it if they have to. First of all, okay, let's go back to the petition, right? Now, let's say the discharge petition goes through. Does John Thune have to bring it to the floor?
No,
Does he have to? No, he can bury this.
Why would he do? I mean, wouldn't it be bad if he buried it?
Well,
at
let's
this
see
point?
what the wink and nod is from the president.
They need 60 votes.
Yeah, you have to.
This is one of the reasons why the Senate has a filibuster, is that there actually are a lot of things that senators go to the media and say, oh, yeah, I'll vote for this, but they don't. They know it's never going to see a vote,
which might be which might be the 180, because maybe there's a wink and a nod. I don't know if there's an agreement between Thune and the president that Thune will not bring it up.
But here's the problem that they all have, is that Ghislaine Maxwell, who is quite, to say it very politely, is quite an unusual woman, to say the least, after all that we've learned about her in the past couple of years, she still has an appeal pending.
Yeah.
So there's still an open case. So I would not be surprised if Pam Bondi says, yeah, I'll be happy to release everything when the cases are closed. That case is still pending on appeal. If Ghislaine got a reversal on it, all these documents would be jeopardized. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Pam did that. Secondly, Pam cannot release the grand jury testimony. The judge has to, and the judge already ruled no.
So this is the problem, right? Which is release everything, but you really can't release everything. And Michael brings up redaction because of other legal proceedings that could be happening. Then you have this other question that Trump brought up. There's a lot of people who are innocent of anything, but somehow their name was brought up, kind of like in these raw FBI reports.
But then
should their lives be destroyed?
I don't necessarily think their lives are destroyed because they were on an airplane. That's incumbent upon the media to say just because you're on a stupid airplane with someone doesn't mean.
Let me push back on that. Not push back, but let me add to that.
Okay.
It is not unusual for the richest man in the area to be texting his congresswoman. Now, I don't know this woman.
No,
I'm not defending her. I'm just saying that he was the richest man in the area. He spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on those islands in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
He was doing just exactly what Michael Wolff was doing. They both were trying to get Trump. He was trying to get Trump. He was feeding information to the congresswoman to ask Michael Cohen in the congressional hearing, just like Michael Wolff was advising Epstein how to blackmail Trump. So there's a lot of
There's a lot here.
This
is a dirty onion.
It may be exposing the swamp in D.C., but not a legal problem.
It's a dirty onion. The more you peel back,
but nobody
the worse
has
it gets.
their hands clean. I don't think anybody's hands are clean when it comes to partisan politics, if that's what we're talking about.
Well,
I don't know why. If this was so damaging to Trump, first of all, why the hell did we sit on it for 4 years? What were we thinking? Why didn't my DOJ or our White House do it?
Let me answer this.
Particularly, why didn't we do it last year before the election?
Let me try to answer this. The reason why the Democrats have gone so in on this question is because they really didn't think it would be released. And so they're like, well, they're not releasing because they have something to hide. So now Trump's calling their bluff. He's saying, fine, if you Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene want to vote for this discharge petition, be careful what you wish for.
I've been saying it too.
Because now all these Democrats will be
I've been
mentioned
saying
in
it
there.
too. I've never understood the end game. I didn't understand why, if this was so damaging, and if Democrats really cared. If they really cared, if this was about victims and if it was about transparency,
they would have cared before.
Why couldn't they have subpoenaed the estate last summer or the year before, or when we had Congress, when we controlled White House? Where was my party? Where was the Biden White House? And if we actually were good about politics, why didn't we do this last year before?
What happens to Marjorie Taylor Greene with Trump?
Well, we've seen this before. When you take on Trump, he punches back twice as hard. And look, I think she's a very talented politician. I just think
she's got a solid district.
She's got a solid district. And look, there's no question that the conservative community doesn't believe the government anymore, and they want all these files to be made public, like with JFK and everything else. And I think there's a cleansing aspect to making everything public, but be careful, because this is the most conservative president we've ever had in my lifetime. Don't try to undercut him when he's getting so much done.
And he has a very good record when it comes to parachuting into primaries in deep red districts. I'd be careful if I were her and her political future.
Matt Schlapp, Michael LaRosa, thank you both.
Thanks, Ray.
Coming up, President Trump is open to talks with Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro. Why? What do they have to say to each other? That when the record continues.
Whenever news breaks.
A lot of destruction there. It was really the front lines in the battle.
And wherever it happens.
And humanitarian corridors opened up this morning.
We're trying to go rescue a 96-year-old lady that doesn't have anybody to take care of her.
They're using ingenuity. They refuse to give up.
It's incoming fire. Come on. Yeah, let's get down here.
Newsmax is there for you.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 91 years of age, with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, neither of us have any kind of sickness, and we're as flexible as we were 30 years ago, and we still do the physical things we did 30 years ago. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you. You won't believe it. Immuno 150 is an awesome nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it.
Yes, it really is incredible.
Yeah, try it. You will be surprised. Order online or call the number listed on the screen, but don't place your order until after you've watched the videos on our website. Thank you from both of us, and God bless.
Invest in Ukraine now. Ukraine is rebuilding, innovating, and shaping the future. Because Ukraine is the potential. Kyivstar is Ukraine's leading digital operator. Invests in Ukraine's connectivity, entertainment, ride-hailing, healthcare, and innovation. It's time to think opportunity. It's time to think Ukraine now.
The United States has struck another alleged drug trafficking boat in the Pacific. U.S. Southern Command posting on X, quote, on November 15, at the direction of Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Joint Task Force Southern Spear conducted a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel operated by a designated terrorist organization. Intelligence confirmed that. The vessel was involved in illicit narcotics smuggling, transiting along a known narco-trafficking route and carrying narcotics. 3 male narco-terrorists aboard the vessel were killed. The vessel was trafficking narcotics in the Eastern Pacific and was struck in international waters, end quote. Yesterday, President Trump was asked about escalating tensions with Venezuela. Here is the president.
Update on Venezuela, Mr. President? On Venezuela, update?
No update on Venezuela.
The designation of that cartel associated with Maduro, does that mean that the U.S. government can target Maduro's assets or infrastructure inside Venezuela?
It allows us to do that, but we haven't said we're going to do that. And we may be having some discussions with Maduro, and we'll see how that turns out. They would like to talk.
Newsmax national security correspondent and my former colleague at Voice of America, Carla Babb. Nice to see you, Carla. Glad you're here. What's going on with Venezuela?
Hi, Greta. A lot is going on. So officials are telling me that U.S. military assets in place around Venezuela could conduct a variety of strikes inside the country if called upon. According to those officials, we're now seeing the largest U.S. military buildup in the region since the U.S. invaded Panama in 1989. At least 16 warships, including the biggest aircraft carrier in the world, USS Gerald R. Ford. But the military will often be the first to tell you that they like to be used as a last resort. And it appears that amid this show of force, President Trump told reporters Sunday his next step with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, as you heard, could be diplomacy. Now, this is happening just as the State Department says that it is designating the Cartel de los Soles, that's the group that Washington claims is run by Maduro, as a foreign terrorist organization. And that designation will take effect next Monday and essentially puts the cartel among the likes of Hamas and Islamic State. Maduro, for his part, denies having any ties to the drug trade, accusing the U.S. of fabricating a war against him, and has called for peace, even as he has built up and ordered up 200,000 forces for military exercises in response to the U.S. presence out in the Caribbean. There was actually this pretty bizarre moment, Greta, where over the weekend Maduro was calling for peace, and then he started singing John Lennon's Imagine. Let's take a listen.
Ángel Nazaret, ¿cómo era la canción de John Lennon? Imagine hospital.
Okay, never would I have ever imagined the Venezuelan leader singing and quoting John Lennon. Unique times indeed, Greta.
Wow, I mean, this is pretty incredible. Now, one thing, they're going after these narco boats. The one thing that Trump isn't talking about anybody, there's a tremendous amount of human trafficking that goes through all those Caribbean countries, Aruba as being one of them, all those, but we're only getting the boats that are carrying narcotics, right?
That is right, and I actually talked to an official about that this morning, and they said that they are certain that there are drugs on the boats that they are targeting. To date, there have been 21, as you announced, the 21st killed 3 people, but this is happening as Congress is saying we want more. We want to know who these people are and how you know that there are drugs on board and that there are only drug smugglers on board. They're getting pretty frustrated over concerns that they're not getting the information that they need. And basically, you know, Trump was talking about that on Sunday as well and addressing those concerns. Do we have his bite?
I don't know how in the world, though, that Trump talks to the head of an organization he names as terrorist. It's like inviting Osama bin Laden to the White House.
Well, I mean, officials have said for years that Maduro is the illegitimate leader. I mean, he has rigged elections. He's been running
that makes it worse.
And that makes it worse. And so right now, we don't know what the United States military is going to do next. They are set up where they could have strikes in Venezuela. But we just heard President Trump say moments ago that he's not necessarily against striking inside of Mexico to get at the cartels there. He also mentioned he would be proud, I think was the word he used, proud to knock out some of the cocaine factories in Colombia. So a lot of worry if you're in Latin America right now to see what the U.S. is going to do.
But the cartel that's been named by Trump and designated by the Secretary of State Marco Rubio, it's a cartel that's actually run by Maduro. I mean, he's the big leader. So I just don't understand. I mean, if we're going to keep killing him and hitting him, I just don't understand what would be said to Maduro. Quit your membership, disband your cartel. He's not going to do any of that.
Well, and he's denying this. He's denying this the whole time. And so when we were looking at striking Maduro, the reasoning is what we're still trying to figure out here, because according to a memo obtained by the Wall Street Journal, the DOJ is trying to pin this on fentanyl production. Well, fentanyl production is not in Venezuela. They're the cocaine country. Fentanyl is mainly in Mexico, and it mainly crosses through the land border. The boats that we've been striking so far, these are cocaine boats. When you talk about the Coast Guard having record-setting years, they're getting cocaine. They're not getting the smaller packets of fentanyl.
And again, they're not striking them, and I don't think they couldn't be, because it'd be human shields, but all the human trafficking that comes out of Venezuela as well. Carla Babb, great to have you here at Newsmax. Thank you.
Thanks, Greta.
And a new prosecutor is taking over President Trump's Georgia election interference case. Earlier this year, as you may recall, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis was disqualified. That, of course, was no surprise after her conduct. So who is the new prosecutor? Peter Skandalakis. He appointed himself to take over the case. He is the director of the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia. He appointed himself because no other prosecutor was willing to take the case. Skandalakis said in a statement, quote, "The filing of this appointment reflects my inability to secure another conflict prosecutor to assume responsibility for this case. Several prosecutors were contacted, and while all were respectful and professional, each declined the appointment." He added, "My only objective is to ensure that this case is handled properly, fairly, and with full transparency, discharging my duties without fear, favor, or affection," end quote. You will remember DA Fani Willis was removed from the case due to her romantic and undisclosed relationship with Nathan Wade. He was the special prosecutor she hired to lead the case rather than assign one of her about 100 prosecutors in her office to do the case. Former U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama, Jay Town, joins me. Jay, boy, what a dog a case is from a prosecutor's standpoint if you can't find anyone to prosecute it. You have to appoint yourself.
Yeah, I mean, they're running from the politics and, frankly, running from the facts. And I'll say this, Greta, Fani Willis, Pete Skandalakis getting this appointment to handle this case, it's the last person that she wanted to see, or anybody that wants to see this prosecution continue. Here's why. Included with the 16 or so individuals that were indicted by Fani Willis, one of them was Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. He actually sought a special session and led sort of the alternative electors charge. Well, Burt Jones contested his indictment based on the fact that Fani Willis held fundraisers for Burt Jones's political opponent. She was removed from that case. And who did they appoint to take that one case against that one defendant? Pete Skandalakis. And Skandalakis looked at the facts and he dismissed the case. So I think we can expect a similar result.
All right. Well, look, this case was indicted more than 2 years ago. Indicted in when was it indicted? I think it's August 2023. It was indicted, and it has not made it to trial. If any one of them had invoked speedy trial, would be a completely different situation. We would not have learned about the love life of Fani Willis and had her testify. So speedy trial isn't always very helpful to the defense. But the thing that strikes me is that this guy who has accepted, he agreed to appoint himself because the judge said on Friday, otherwise I'm going to throw it out if no one appoints it. He appoints himself to take over the case, yet he admits in the press he hasn't looked at all the files. So he has no idea what he has or what he doesn't have, and how punitive to those defendants who have been waiting all this time to find out what's going on. The prosecutor doesn't even know.
And that's a very fair point. The easy route here would have been for him to just not appoint anyone and let the judge toss all of the cases. But Skandalakis didn't feel that was the appropriate thing to do. But I do think, he was praised by many of the defendants' counsel in this particular case when he took the appointment himself. So I think it rings true. Of course he was.
Of course he was praised. If there's a prosecutor appointed who's going to prosecute my client, I'm not going to say lousy things about the prosecutor in the press. I'm not that stupid. You say, yeah, he's a fair, good guy. You say all those things in the beginning.
Perhaps. President Trump took a different tactic in this case, and with Jack Smith, but he's different, right? He's got a different set of guts than I think just about all of us. But we'll see what he does. It'll be interesting how aggressive he is in protecting the cases. I think that'll, have me back when those motion filings happen in December, Greta, because I think it'll be sort of telling whether or not he's more apt to dismiss these cases or if he wants to go forward with the prosecution.
My bet is that they die in December after he takes a look at the files and realizes that, this isn't a case of crime where there's a dangerous psychopath out, killing people. This is a very different thing, and make it go away for the state of Georgia and for the defendants. J-Town, thank you.
Thank you, Greta.
Coming up, this next story is so outrageous it needed an alert. You'll see when the record continues.
Hi, I'm Bianca Della Garza. What I love about working with Newsmax is the relationship we have with our viewers. So smart, so informed, it allows us to deliver powerful analysis, the sharpest viewpoints on the issues that really matter.
Hello, this is Franklin Graham. This Thanksgiving, what are you thankful for? You're thankful for family, your friends. How about God? That's right. Are you thankful for God? You see, God made you. He created you. He loves you. And you say, but Franklin, my life is in such a mess. I'm not sure I'm thankful for my life. Well, that's why God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to this earth to save us from this mess of sin that we live in. You see, that's right. God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to this earth to take your sins. He died and shed his blood on a cross for our sins, but on the third day, God raised him to life. He's not dead. He's alive. And he'll come into your heart right now if you invite him. Just pray this prayer with me. Just say, God, I'm a sinner. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I want to invite Jesus to come into my heart, to take control of my life. I want to surrender my life to him. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Prayed that prayer. Call that number that's on the screen.
Afraid your roof won't make it through the winter? Roofmax can tune up and restore your roof for a fraction of the cost of a replacement. Call now, and the tune-up portion is free with your Roofmax treatment.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 91 years of age with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, neither of us have any kind of sickness, and we're as flexible as we were 30 years ago, and we still do the physical things we did 30 years ago. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you. You won't believe it. Immuno 150 is an awesome nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it.
Yes, it really is incredible.
Yeah, try it. You will be surprised. Order online or call the number listed on the screen, but don't place your order until after you've watched the videos on our website. Thank you from both of us, and God bless.
The word sorry may not be enough for President Trump. On Friday night, President Trump announced he plans to sue the BBC. Why? It's added of his January 6, 2021 speech. This despite BBC's apology to him. Here's the president.
What BBC did, nobody would even think a thing like that was done. They actually changed the words coming out of my mouth.
So the BBC has apologised and retracted the report, but they say they won't pay any compensation.
Well, we'll sue them. We'll sue them for anywhere between $1 billion and $5 billion, probably sometime next week.
So you're ready to take?
Well, I think I have to do it. I mean, they've even admitted that they cheated.
Meanwhile, hot off the press, a new book has hit the shelves, and it gives readers a behind-the-scenes look into the 2024 presidential campaign trail. Author of Retribution, Donald Trump and the Campaign That Changed America, Jonathan Karl joins me. And Jonathan, we used to work together.
Yes, we did.
Boy, so we're both getting pretty old. We go back to CNN days.
Let's not acknowledge how long ago that was.
That's not. It was last week. All right, this book is fascinating. I listened to it. I love that you narrated it. I got so many questions. Has Trump transformed politics?
I think he's utterly transformed politics, and it won't change when he's off the scene. I mean, he's shown that so many of the old rules simply don't apply.
And what about transparency? I mean, you know everything he's going to say. He gives so many interviews. He talks to so many people.
I mean, in some ways, he is by far the most transparent president, actually the most transparent political figure we've ever had. I mean, not only, in this second term, the endless press conferences in the Oval Office. I mean, he expresses his thoughts in the middle of the night on on Truth Social. You know, you can almost channel what he's doing.
Did Vice President Kamala Harris and President Biden like each other? Because they had that wicked debate during the primary back for the 2020, I think it may have been in 2019, where she was pretty rugged towards him. Did they like each other? Did they work well together?
It was not a particularly close relationship, and the people around Kamala Harris deeply resented the people around Joe Biden. I mean, there was a real rivalry, real bitterness, real resentment. And there was resentment on the Biden side for what Kamala Harris said in that debate in Miami, never to be forgotten by the Biden family. I mean, accusing Joe Biden effectively of being a segregationist.
Yeah, and it was very rough.
Yeah.
Biden, his mental acuity, that always comes up as a question.
Yeah.
What did someone know and when?
Well, look, I actually don't think that this was a cover-up. I think everybody saw it. I think people saw it play out on national television. I mean, one of the real mysteries is how nobody in the Democratic Party, no major figure in the Democratic Party, went to Joe Biden and said, hey, you should really think about not running. Nobody in the White House. They never even had a meeting on it.
But you know what I think, at least for me, I mean, I've interviewed him when he was a senator.
Yeah.
Probably interviewed him as vice president, remember. Never interviewed him when he was in the White House as president. But, you know, I'd watch him walk, and I'd see him sort of hem and haw, and I think, boy, that looks really bad. But I'm not about to say without sitting down and meeting him, boy, that guy's lost his mind, or he's just not there. Because it's so, I mean, I have respect for the office, but, you know, it was right before us.
Yeah, and look, I don't think he had lost his mind, but it was clear that the guy was very old and he had lost several steps, and that the idea that that person could not just win and run a presidential election, but then serve for 4 more years, I mean, it was never even discussed.
You know what I was surprised about in your book, or maybe it's one of the interviews I heard you say, is that the Biden White House they were in the end dissatisfied with Attorney General Garland.
Oh, they were bitter, angry with Garland. They thought that Garland had slow-walked the cases against Trump. They hated that Garland elevated the prosecutor in the Hunter Biden case to a special prosecutor. They hated the appointment of her as the special counsel in the classified documents case for Biden. They, in many ways, blame Merrick Garland for the fact that Donald Trump is president.
Do you think if President Biden had gotten out earlier, had there been a primary, A, would Vice President Kamala Harris have been the nominee, and B, would she have won?
I think there's a real, I mean, she would have been a formidable front runner, but I think that people like Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, some of the real senior figures in the Democratic Party had real doubts whether or not she would have emerged from a primary, and definitely harbored doubts about whether or not she could win a general election.
You talked to President Trump about a day after he was shot?
Yeah. That was really something else. So, he shot Saturday evening. I'm in Milwaukee at the convention. The convention's about to start that Monday. And we were on all night, all through the next day. It was actually Monday morning. I placed a call. I figured I would leave a voicemail. I'd never actually done this before. It was the first time I directly called his cell phone. And I just wanted to say, hey, I'm horrified by what happened and grateful you're okay. And to my shock, he called me back just as the convention was opening. He had just nominated, he just announced that J.D. Vance would be his running mate. And he calls me and he spent 12, 15 minutes on the phone with me.
Which is
I mean, an eternity at this moment. I'm in our broadcast booth at the convention. I'm sitting next to David Muir, our anchor. I had to show him I was on the phone with, I mean, it was really something else. But he really sounded different in that conversation.
Which is why I love your book. And I think viewers should buy it because, we see so much on the outside, but we never get the inside scoop of that kind of stuff, which is and that's why I recommended the viewers that they get it. It's a great book. Jonathan Karl, my old colleague, nice to see you.
Awesome to be here with you.
And it's time for our alert. Yeah, it's our new alert. It's called Outrage of the Day Alert. What is so outrageous that we needed an alert? Well, I'll tell you. Journalist Tina Brown, who has published 2 books on the royal family, says, ready for this? It is the late Queen Elizabeth II's fault that Andrew turned out the way he has. During the New York Times podcast, The Interview, Brown said the late British monarch bears responsibility for the behavior of her now blacklisted son. Here's part of that interview.
The Queen was there for 70 years, right? So, the Queen, the hagiography around the Queen is intense. You're not allowed to ever criticize the Queen. The fact is that she has quite a lot to answer for with Andrew, is the truth, because the Queen enabled Andrew in a really terrible way. He was her favorite. I mean, she protected him, and Mummy was the only person, his only client, essentially. She was the one who protected him. So, unfortunately, it made him worse. He was never made to stand up and be counted, essentially.
Agree? Outrageous that Tina Brown blames the Queen for Andrew? How about blaming Andrew? Still ahead, tomorrow another big-name guest headed to the White House. Who's getting the proverbial red carpet treatment this time? Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Trudy of Johnny Chick's Home and Hardware. Customers ask me all the time how to prepare for cold weather and avoid costly plumbing problems. My answer is the Freeze Miser. It installs in seconds without tools and activates only when the water temperature drops below 37 degrees. The Freeze Miser releases the minimal amount of water needed to prevent freezing. It's perfect for your home, farm and ranch, RV, water wells, and much more. Ask for the Freeze Miser at your favorite hardware or farm and ranch store or go to freezemiser.com.
At Avocado, we believe everyone deserves organic sleep. That's why we created the Eco Organic Mattress for adults, kids, and even the littlest dreamers. Certified organic, safe, and supportive. Made with natural materials at a price that makes comfort affordable. Every purchase gives back through 1% for the planet. Discover the Eco Organic Collection at avocadomattress.com or a retailer near you. Avocado, dream of better.
What's gold is new again.
pardon the pun. But considering gold has been used as currency since around 550 BC, it has been on fire the past year. I'm here with Daniel Boston, the founder of Preserve Gold. Why is gold so stable and such a good investment for many people?
Take the central bank, for example, the Federal Reserve. They print money out of thin air, and then they take that printed money to go buy hard assets like gold to protect themselves against the very risks that they're creating. So I always tell people, don't do what the big players are telling you to do. Do what they're doing themselves.
Yeah, watch what they're doing.
That's correct.
Okay. If people are interested in investing with Preserve Gold, how do they get started?
Text Newsmax to 50505 to get your free information and up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. That's right. Text Newsmax to 50505.
All right. No way you can miss it.
Derriere, caboose, booty, badunkadunk. No matter what you call it, if you have hemorrhoids, your tushy is no laughing matter. So don't use a cream that treats your rear end like a joke. Get serious relief with Recticare Advanced Hemorrhoidal Cream. Recticare Advanced is seriously effective with 2 powerful medicines for rapid dual-action relief, soothing the uncomfortable swelling, itching, and pain of your hemorrhoids. For serious hemorrhoid relief for your buns, get Recticare Advanced.
Well, a little birdie told me rates are taking a dip, which means that dream home won't be there forever. Don't let someone else beat you to it. Start your search today. Make it real with Realtor.com.
Are you or a loved one a military veteran that has been diagnosed with mesothelioma? Do you have questions about getting the best treatment or paying medical bills? Have you received the proper care and compensation you deserve? Let our firm serve you with the same dedication you served your country. We are exclusively devoted to helping those with mesothelioma. Call now to get this free book, and we'll answer any question you have. We'll even visit you.
Call 800-555-8958 or go to mesobook.com.
Tomorrow, President Trump will welcome the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, also known as MBS. They last met in May, and that was during Trump's first foreign trip during this presidency. During that trip, Trump secured a $600 million investment commitment from the Saudis. But tomorrow, the stakes are higher.
More than meeting, we're honoring Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince.
One of your goals for the meeting, have you decided whether to sell F-35 fighter jets to Saudi Arabia? Are you going to do that?
Well, they want to buy a lot of jets. We make the best jets, we make the best missiles. You saw that when we took out the nuclear capability of Iran.
Yes to the jets, or you're not sure yet?
I'm looking at that. They've asked me to look at it. They want to buy a lot of 35, but they want to buy actually more than that fighter jets, yeah.
Will the Abraham Accords be a part of that conversation, perhaps getting the Abraham Accords, getting Saudi Arabia?
And the Abraham Accords will be a part. We're going to be discussing. I hope that Saudi Arabia will be going into the Abraham Accords fairly shortly.
Well, today, Trump did say he will sell the Saudis F-35 fighter jets. This will also be the first White House visit since the brutal murder of Jamal Khashoggi killing. He was the Washington Post writer murdered at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey, in October of 2018. Middle East correspondent Zach Anders joins me from Tel Aviv, where it is 11:39 local time.
Hi, good evening, Greta. Yeah, the Israelis, they're certainly no fan of this Saudi leadership either. They vehemently oppose involvement in these kind of deals, and we heard that again from Jerusalem today. There are reports out today that claim that the Saudis have promised Palestinian Authority leadership, the PA, that they won't normalize ties with Israel in these meetings with President Trump. Now, President Trump says he wants to bring them into the Abraham Accords. That would involve normalizing ties with Israel. So we are at an impasse here. Again, the reports stating that Saudi Arabia does not plan to normalize ties before a Palestinian state is established. If a Palestinian state was established, potentially they would go further into the Abraham Accords. But again, Jerusalem saying, no, that will not take place. They will not allow for a Palestinian state under these conditions to be established. Now, elsewhere, Greta, there's a major move tonight. The United Nations Security Council is set to vote on a U.S. resolution that could move phase 2 of the president's peace plan closer to reality. That vote is set to take place. The Security Council is going to be meeting here in about 20 minutes, and there will be opening statements from each nation, and then the vote will take place at 5 o'clock Eastern is when the Security Council meets here. Now, this resolution has resounding support across the Middle East here. Qatar, Egypt, even Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Pakistan, they've all endorsed this American resolution for phase 2 of the president's peace plan. And over the weekend, the Palestinian Authority, Palestinian leadership here that's based in the West Bank, they issued a statement in support of this resolution as well. So it looks really like this has resounding support across the region. Perhaps unsurprisingly here, Hamas has called this a dangerous step, claims that it serves only Israeli interests, and this as the terror group still refuses to disarm, and Gaza rebuilding plans are moving forward without them, without Hamas. So we've got the Palestinian Authority that's based in the West Bank saying they support this, Hamas based in Gaza saying they don't. Now, this resolution has down-ballot support from most Mideast states, but it will still be a vote to watch because both Russia and China have veto power in the Security Council. Our sources are telling us they do believe that both Russia and China will abstain today, that they won't vote in support, but they won't veto. The Kremlin had signaled earlier this week possible opposition to the resolution. They presented their own rival resolution for international peacekeeping force based on their framework earlier in the week. That's going to come up later at this Security Council meeting. Now, this is all taking place while Hamas is still in charge across the populated areas in Gaza. Israeli media outlets are reporting that Hamas has been stockpiling weapons abroad in Africa. The reports cite Israeli security sources claiming that Hamas intends to eventually try and smuggle these weapons into Gaza to restock their depleted arsenal. Now, with Hamas refusing to disarm and the Security Council vote that's taking place here in about 20 minutes, there's growing belief that the White House will abandon one pillar of the peace plan, trying to get Hamas to disarm, and just move straight to the rebuilding phase in the areas of Gaza that are still under IDF control, and try and create a two-state solution within Gaza itself, two different areas, right? You're going to have an IDF-controlled area that they'll try and rebuild. Gazans will have the choice to go live under that rule or stay under the Hamas side. And Hamas, again, the pressure points here where they can disarm, it's not looking like there's anything that can move them into that position anymore. They've given up the hostages. We're going to have to wait and see what's going to take with this Security Council vote, again, coming up in about 20 minutes, Greta.
Zach Anders, thank you. And the future of Iran's nuclear program is unclear. Iran's foreign minister saying, quote, there is no undeclared nuclear enrichment in Iran. All our facilities are under the safeguards and monitoring. There is no enrichment right now because our enrichment facilities have been attacked, end quote. Iran's foreign minister, of course, is referring to the U.S. striking Iran's nuclear facility back in June. But the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, says it cannot verify Iran's stockpile of near-weapons-grade uranium in months. The IAEA's Board of Governors will meet this week. They could vote on a resolution to target Iran for not cooperating. Coming up, Dr. Oz. He joins me next. That when the record continues.
I'm Elmer Heinrich. At 91 years of age, here with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you.
It really is incredible.
Yeah, try it. You will be surprised. Order now. You'll be glad you did.
This is a story about the one. The one who looks to Grainger to make sparks fly. Getting it done right is a craft. It takes experience, the right material, and the right partner like Grainger with a wide range of professional-grade products. For the one, working hard means others can play even harder. Call, click Grainger.com, or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
There are only a few men I'd trust with my life. Two of them built this wallet. I've known the guys behind Proof for nearly 20 years, and we've been through hell and back together. When they told me they were building the wallet, I just said, bill me now, I'm in. This isn't some fashion piece. This isn't just some trend. These wallets are a direct reflection of the kind of men who built it. It's built to last, built to function, and designed to carry everything you need and more. If anything happens to it, they'll take care of it. No questions, no fine print. If you knew the guys who created this wallet, you wouldn't carry anything else. Go check them out, because they built this thing right.
When Betty and George turned 50, they figured out that switching 2 unlimited lines from big wireless to consumer cellular could save people up to $600 a year. So they made the switch and started splurging on date night. And it became their favorite night. No, don't you dare. It's an acquired taste. See how we can cut your bill. If you're over 50, get 2 unlimited lines for $30 each. Call Consumer Cellular.
It's that time of the year, open enrollment. That's when you can sign up or change your health care plan. Health care is what ultimately caused the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. Democrats want to extend Obamacare subsidies, which expired December 31st. Meanwhile, President Trump is vowing to replace the Affordable Care Act with something better and cheaper. Next year, health insurance premiums for millions who use Obamacare could double if Congress does not find a solution. The administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, Dr. Mehmet Oz, joins me. Nice to see you, sir. And first, great work on getting the obesity drugs down to affordable, because I think that's a big game changer for a lot of things. But I've also heard you quoted as saying that innovation and competition will help us disrupt the illness industrial complex, which to me means you got some ideas for changing a lot of things, because the status quo really isn't working.
It's not working at all. In fact, you look at healthcare costs in general, they're increasing 8 to 9% this year. That's a lot more than inflation. Not as the GDP can't keep up with that. Greta, we're going to become a large healthcare system with a small country attached. So let's get ahead of this. The GLP-1 drugs that we put out through a desire of the president to get all these prices to come down to so they're equal for Americans and those living in other countries is working beautifully. We've done the largest U.S. company, a large European company, all the fertility drugs. So we're making progress. This whole concept that Americans would be stuck spending 3 times more for the same drugs made in the same places and put in the same bottles as folks in Europe makes no sense. The president is appropriately angry about this, and we have taken steps. These GLP-1 drugs, which will help Americans lose weight, will also reduce all the morbidity from obesity, including high blood pressure and diabetes and kidney failure, liver issues, a whole slew of things, Greta. But the fundamental reality is within 2 years, they will pay for themselves. Within 2 years, taxpayers will actually pay less money for the healthcare system because of these drugs. Which brings me to the big topic I know you're about to ask about, which is the Affordable Care Act. And we do have big ideas there, but it's a mix. You have to reduce the actual cost of care while you come up with better ways of paying for the care that you're offering. And just as evidence that their system is in trouble, when the original ACA was created, there were problems with it, which, for good or for bad, they were sort of muddling through until COVID. And when COVID hit, the Democrats addressed those problems by throwing money at the issue, which they only were willing to do until now, because they knew what they were doing didn't make sense. Because of these ill-designed moves, it has led to immense fraud in the system. We believe there are over 4 million people, alleged people, getting benefits on the Obamacare system who do not exist or weren't supposed to get the benefits. That's a lot of money, full fare. We're paying for insurance for 4 million people who don't even know they have insurance.
Well, it seems to me, though, that we really need to shake up the system completely. It's not just trying to figure out how to make it cheaper, but the model is just not working. And what I like are, and I think, is rather than wait till someone has a horrible case of cancer and spend all the money on chemotherapy and radiation, is what I like are a lot of these tests that they're beginning to be developed online, so you can see if you maybe yourself these self-tests for colon cancer, for prostate cancer, the Galleria test for blood can determine 50 cancers. But as we get more and more of those tests with with FDA approval and with more certainty that, let's attack the disease before it becomes horribly expensive and fatal.
A stitch in time saves 9. It has always done that. It will continue to do that. As a surgeon, I love using that phraseology because we take precautions when we do surgeries to make sure we have great outcomes. We do not do that with our health policies quite as readily. And much of what we have identified is a malalignment where the person doing the procedure is actually not aligned exactly with what the patient needs and the payer, the person actually paying the bill. I spoke this morning to the American Medical Association, and I pushed the doctors in the room to get their mojo back. And what happened to professionalism where, yes, you take care of your patient is number one, but you also have a civic responsibility to speak up about issues that matter. We have got to realign the system. We don't even have the governors and the president of the country aligned. And that's why we have these battles about Medicaid payments. So I think we can fix these issues, but we've got to be brave about it. And as you know, just last week, we began taking active steps to do just that, to make sure people are not paid to do things that don't create value for the American people.
I also think that lots of times politicians do that, create these different systems, but they haven't spoken to the doctors and the nurses and the people who every day have to deal with it, who have really good ideas.
They don't, and the doctors and nurses actually are in the trenches. They know what to do. My plea today, and again, nurses are the ultimate healers. They're the ones out there. They're the glue that holds the system together, is speak up about things you know to be important in the system. Do not tolerate being just a cog in the wheel of the medical industrial complex. The people you're watching in these screens right now are actually saving lives. The folks who are the middlemen, the insurance companies, the pharmaceutical the drug creators, which again, the scientists are one thing. They're on the front lines creating solutions, but there are lots of business people in the middle. We need them to recognize that we want value for the investment we're making in healthcare. We spend twice as much as any other country on the planet. We have got to be able to get value that's equivalent to that, and it's not. Our life expectancy is dropping, partly for the reasons you articulate. We're not getting timely testing and recovery.
And I'm here every day, 5 days a week. So when you have some ideas, you might come back because I love this topic because I think it's so important. Dr. Oz, thank you for joining me, sir.
Bless you.
And the executor of the estate of O.J. Simpson has agreed to make a major payout. More than $58 million from the estate will go to the heirs of Ron Goldman. Back in 1994, Simpson was tried for the killing of Ron Goldman and his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson. As you might remember, Simpson was found not guilty of both murders. But in the next year, in 1995, Goldman's family sued O.J. Simpson in civil court. They filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Simpson for the murders, and the Goldman family won. The civil jury awarded the estate of Ron Goldman $33 million. But the Goldman estate was only able to collect a small portion of the $33 million civil judgment. So what did Ron Goldman's family do? They sued O.J. Simpson again. Last year, after Simpson died from cancer, Ron Goldman's father, Fred Goldman, asked for $117 million from Simpson's estate. He says that amount includes the years of accumulated interest. The executor of Simpson's estate disputed that amount. Instead, he offered Goldman almost $58 million plus interest, which Goldman has then accepted. Think about it. For 28 years, since 1997, O.J. Simpson was able to hide his assets from that civil verdict. While that is now over, I periodically do call Fred Goldman and talk to him. His pain from his son's murder will never be over. Coming up, there's a new rule in a local elementary school. It turns out certain numbers are better left unspoken. That when the record continues.
You hear the same voices.
Donald Trump knows that's a lie.
From the same people.
Donald Trump is less lucid.
Saying the same thing.
Insults, invective, and outright lies.
And you say, enough! I'm Chris Salcedo, and I'll tell you the real news. You don't believe me? Just tune in.
Do you have a yo-yo smile? Sometimes yellow, sometimes white. It's a constant battle between everyday stains and whitening treatments. Until now, get Smile Actives, the daily teeth whitening breakthrough that gives you a more youthful smile and helps you keep it.
At 43 years old, I don't mess around with products that waste my time. Smile Actives is easy, and it works. No gloopy trays, no messy strips. Just add a little bit on top of your toothpaste when you brush your teeth. And ta-da! White teeth.
Just add Smile Actives to your favorite toothpaste and watch the magic happen. Our patented Polyclean microfoam lifts away deep stains for a dramatically younger and whiter smile.
You have a choice. You can have those yellow teeth and just be old Nana or Pop-Pop, or you can be smiling and dazzling, full of confidence. I love my white teeth.
Scan, click, or call for your whitest smile yet. And if you order right now, we'll double your whitening free. Get an extra Smile Actives as our free gift to you, but only while supplies last.
I drink coffee every day. I started noticing that my teeth were not as bright as I like them to be, a little dingy, but Smile Active, it works. Got your boy gleaming.
100% of users saw whiter teeth. Smile Actives lifts away even the toughest stains from coffee, wine, and food, gently restoring your bright, youthful smile. Plus, it's safe for veneers, crowns, and dentures.
It's really a no-brainer if you want to whiten your teeth.
Clinically shown to brighten your teeth 5 shades whiter in just 7 days.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Act now. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll double your order. Free. But hurry, this deal won't last. Smile Actives is guaranteed to work. Whiten your teeth or get your money back. No questions asked. Don't wait. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. That's free shipping. A free extra bottle. That's an incredible 58% savings. Scan the code, go to smileactives.com or call to get your beautiful whiter smile now.
Hello, this is Franklin Graham. This Thanksgiving, what are you thankful for? You're thankful for family, your friends. How about God? That's right. Are you thankful for God? You see, God made you. He created you. He loves you. And you say, but Franklin, my life is in such a mess. I'm not sure I'm thankful for my life. Well, that's why God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to this earth to save us from this mess of sin that we live in. You see, that's right. God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to this earth to take your sins. He died and shed his blood on a cross for our sins, but on the third day, God raised him to life. He's not dead. He's alive. And he'll come into your heart right now if you invite him. Just pray this prayer with me. Just say, God, I'm a sinner. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I want to invite Jesus to come into my heart, to take control of my life. I want to surrender my life to him. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Prayed that prayer. Call that number that's on the screen.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at GetTrumpWatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
Have you heard the phrase 6-7? Well, apparently in some schools it has gotten out of hand. Elementary students are using the phrase 6-7 with no clear meaning. School resource officers at a local elementary school in Indiana are now giving out misconduct tickets for saying 6-7. As you can see in the video, students are receiving their fake tickets. Some teachers have even posted viral videos showing how many times the word is used. According to the sheriff, the tickets are a way to keep parents sane. That's how you keep parents sane? Okay. The Chris Salcedo Show is up next. Stay with Newsmax.